Okay, I realized that I've been doing a lot of talking in my videos and I wasn't really getting specific. There are a lot of new people out there who have been sending me questions because they see that I'm a new person here on YouTube also. So they've been asking me questions about production. I talked a lot about doing no budget productions and micro budget production, but let's get a little specific. Today I want to talk about if you're planning to do a short film and you have a budget of $500. I'm going to give you some specifics to help you stay within that budget and still make your short film. Again, realize that a lot of these short films are to teach you the whole process. So you can learn from beginning to end and do it on yourself and not worry about trying to raise money. You already set yourself a budget. I'm going to spend $500 on this short film and it's going to be a learning lesson for me. Now, if it turns out great, yes, feel free to show it. Even if it doesn't turn out that great, feel free to post it online and let other people learn from what you've done. Learn from your mistakes. That's what I have always taught people, younger people when they come to me. I've taught a lot of classes in DV film production. I've even taught some film production classes. And I would always lead with my mistakes and let them learn from my mistakes so they don't have to make those. So making a film for $500, let's see, you want to start with your script. Now, we've talked about this before. You want to write a script that you can afford to shoot. So, for instance, I'm going to use myself as an example. One of the very first short films I shot took place in my dorm room in college. And I had a couple of volunteer actors. We'll get to the actors later, but I had a couple of volunteer actors, and that's how I kept everything small. I wrote the script based around the dorm that I had full access to. So it was great. I had access to the whole dorm, and obviously they were fellow college students. So that gives you a little hint on what the script was about. It was just a simple script about two brothers, and they so happened to be what made them unique and why I wanted to make a film about them. They were twin brothers, and they were identical twin brothers. So it turned out to be a nice little funny script we put together, and I learned a lot on that production. And that was one of the very early days of myself shooting on VHS. Actually, no, it was 3/4 tape. So we did that production and I learned a lot. I learned what to do and what not to do. And that helped me along my journey. And it always helped me in my journey, in my filmmaking journey, when I look back at what I've shot, or I look back at what some of my clients have shot, because I do a lot of editing these days. And I can give them advice on how to do it better next time. You know, sometimes they don't want to hear it, but I always send them a nice little friendly email. I praise what they've done and tell them how they can do it better. Next step here is prioritize your spending. Know what matters. There are certain things that you can't get around depending upon what you've written in your script. There may be certain props you need. There may be certain wardrobe you need. You may need anything you may really need. So you need to prioritize what's important. Even if you're shooting somewhere where you need to pay a little bit for the production, maybe you throw the owner of wherever they're letting you shoot $50, So prioritize your expenses and do that in advance, knowing that I have $500 and I need to stay on this budget because I want to make this project and I want to keep it under $500. Gear up. Here's another section. Gear up with what you have. I spoke earlier, or was it last week? These videos are starting to blend together about shooting on your smartphone. You already have a smartphone. There's probably hardly no one watching this video who doesn't have a smartphone. Don't worry about the quality. If it's not the $1,000 or $2,000 iPhone, don't worry about it. If you have one of those, beautiful. If you have a friend who has one who will let you borrow it, while they sit there so they can answer the calls if calls come in, use it. Shoot with what you have. Shoot with what you have or what you can borrow. Location, we just talked about that. Give me a moment right here. Let me pull up my list. I'm going to make sure I hit every one of these points that I've created for you guys today. Location, again, keep it free and legal. Now, I don't tell people to go out there and sneak in places and shoot. I don't do that. Those days are kind of over with. The world has changed so much. When I started out, I did a feature film probably it was in the early 90s. It was called Cain and Abel, and we actually were able to shoot inside LAX airport with no problem. I had my one of my actors coming from the where you would exit the plane, like where the dockway is. I had him coming out of there. I had him walking through the airport, carrying his bag. I had a cameraman, I had a sound man, me as the director, and the actor. It was probably like just us 4 or 5. And he came down the escalator. We went downstairs. We set up everything down by the escalator. It was handhold. Set up down by the escalator. Had him ride down the escalator. Had him walk out the front door. Had another actor in a car sitting down the block. And these all set up different shots. This wasn't one continuous shot. But this just goes to show you, and you all know, the world has changed a lot. So don't try to do things like that, obviously. You know, you can't do that. I wouldn't advocate that nowadays. But we were able to get all those shots at LAX with no problem. We even had we even did the exit shots because the movie started with him coming to town and the movie ended with him leaving town. So we did the the coming to town and leaving town shots. We did all of those out of LAX. And it probably took us about 3 or 4 hours. Not a peep from any security, not a peep from any police officers. No, not even public really came and bothers us. You had a few looky-loos, but we did that. It was beautiful. It's beautiful footage. I'm proud of it today. And I show it off a lot. I use it in some of my classes that I teach to show what the flexibility of filming was back in the early 90s and the late 80s. But anyway, make sure your location, again, your location is free and legal. Find places where you can shoot. You can if you're persistent and you have the ability, or somebody on your crew or a friend who's a talker, you can go and get free locations. You can maybe stores, corner stores. I've seen a lot of people shoot in supermarkets nowadays, shoot in supermarkets, corner stores, restaurants. You go in there and you tell the restaurant, I need to do a quick scene, and I want my cast, after we shoot the scene, we're gonna have a meal here with these 10 people, our cast members. So you can find those advantages. They're not over with. You just have to work to get them. And so it takes a little bit more finesse, but you can find them, and adds production value to your project. But that's not even necessary. Because again, like I said, this could be a project. This could be your very first 101, your 101 film project, where you're telling yourself, I want to learn everything from the beginning. The casting, the writing, the casting, the planning. You want to learn it all, and you want to do it short, and you want to keep it to $500. So again, let's go cast and crew. Go with passionate collaborators. Maybe you have a group of friends that you all want to make films. Some want to act, some want to shoot, some want to do sound, some want to do makeup. And you all collaborate and make this $500 short film. And a lot of times people work with others, peers that they might have met in high school or college. Or you might have a group of friends who you can wrangle to help you out. So make sure you have a passionate crew who's not going to walk off in the middle of the shoot. Camera guy with his brand new iPhone decides, oh, I got to go to work now, and you're not finished. So you need to have a passionate crew who's dedicated for that amount of time that you need to shoot your film, and you guys get together and you do it. Sound. Now don't scrimp on the sound. If you can have someone with some kind of, nowadays there's so many different devices. Effective sound can even be recorded on another phone. So you can have someone dedicated to doing sound. Now there are ways to even connect sound devices, boom poles, and record the sound on your phone. So you can find that stuff out online. But there's always a way to get better sound. So if you're trying to do something and you want it to sound professional and look professional as possible and stay within your $500 budget, find somebody who wants to know about sound, and you guys rig something together and get some good sound. It's possible. Do not just grab the camera and use the on-camera mic. Unless you're doing a silent film and you're going to dub it later. It could be all voiceover like the old 1940s detectives. Or, you know what? I knew she knew what I thought she knew, so I followed her to this shady bar. There's so many creative ways, but you want to make sure you have good sound. Next, we have food and drink. Now, most likely, that's where most of your $500 budget is going to go. Because if you get a group of people together, say for instance you get 6 or 10 people together, and you guys plan to shoot all day, you plan to do a 10-hour day, somewhere at the half point of that 10-hour day, you need to stop. That's one of the things one of my weaknesses when I was shooting in the very beginning. I would get so caught up that I would forget to let the cast and crew and the talent take breaks. I felt that I had the energy, and back then I had tons of energy, and I thought I had the energy to keep on going, and I would forget that they needed to take a break. They needed to have lunch. They needed to have breaks. So you need to plan that. You need to have a schedule. Even if you're doing your $500 film like what we're talking about right now, you want a schedule. Even if it's just a simple handwritten out schedule. Okay, we're going to start at 8 a.m. and from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., we're going to shoot the first 4 scenes. And you plan it out. See how you can divide all your scenes within that day. And then somewhere in the half point, you want to have lunch for your cast and crew. You want to take a break, and you want to have some water and snacks, and you don't have to get extravagant. You let everybody know this is a $500 budget, and most of the money is going to our craft services, which are what on a movie set they call the snacks, the drinks, the water, some soda. Nothing fancy, nothing elaborate. So you have that available for your cast and crew all day, and then you take that halfway point, you take that lunch break, and you just stop. You stop for 1 hour, and you let everybody get lunch. And what you should do is so you won't waste time, you'll have someone who's acting as a PA that you can go and get lunch before you start shooting. And say, for instance, you're shooting at your home and you can have Subway or whatever. You can have that in the refrigerator and someone can go pick it up and they put it in the refrigerator. And then once it's time for lunch, boom, lunch is ready. Everybody gets their lunch. They got the potato chips. They got something to drink. They got a sandwich. And don't go all crazy, trying to take down everyone in particular's order. If there's somebody who's a vegetarian or something and they're friends of yours and you know it, then you can get them something like that. But don't go crazy where well, I have to have this with 2 strips of bacon and 1/2 a piece of cheese and red onions only. No yellow. No. We're on a $500 budget, and we're going to provide everyone with a fresh food, something to eat that everyone can eat. And I said, you can make arrangements for someone who can't eat meat or something like that ahead of time. But don't get all crazy with it. Let's see what we got here. I'm going to go up a little bit here. Wardrobe and props. Now, one way to solve the wardrobe is to talk to the actors ahead of time. Find out what they have, and you build their wardrobe out of what they have. Don't have them going out and buying anything. Find out what they have. Do you have a green button-up shirt? Do you have jeans that are worn that look, you find out what they own, and then you build your wardrobe from what they own. What I normally do is I tell the actors what I want them to wear, and I tell them to bring me 3 or 4 choices to the set in a little bag. And no one has ever, within my 30, 40 years of shooting, I've never had a problem with anyone bringing their own wardrobe, because they know you're doing a micro budget production and you don't have the money to go out and get wardrobe for them. But if you're doing something and you require maybe somebody in a detective suit or a police officer, so certain times I have rented uniforms, certain times I have rented wardrobe or bought the necessary wardrobe. We did a shoot for a chiropractor, and we dressed everybody up in the white lab coats, and we ordered those online, and it worked out great. Those little touches add realism and add production value. So don't forget about the wardrobe. And then post-production. Most likely, if you're going to be doing a $500 project, you're probably going to be directing and possibly shooting and possibly editing. So you might have an editor, though. You might have a friend who wants to do the editing. So you find out, what they can do, what they're used to doing, how they like to work together. And also, one thing I recommend, start from the very beginning. Slate your shots. Even if you don't use the clacker on the slate, because if you're shooting what I said earlier, you're shooting double system, which I do recommend, then you need to identify your shots and use the complete slate, use it the traditional way. Even though it's not necessary anymore, mostly all the software, I'm more familiar with Final Cut Pro and also Premiere. I'm more familiar with Premiere. I used to work on Final Cut Pro, but Premiere now, I've been 100% Premiere, has built-in synchronization. So if you shoot double system with the camera on one system and the sound on a separate audio system, then it's easy to connect it together. But I still recommend using the slate to identify your scenes, so that when you're sitting down and you're organizing the footage, your editor won't go batty, and he doesn't have to watch every piece of footage. A lot of the clients I work with, I always get them to slate their footage. I get them to promise that they're going to slate their footage, because if I'm giving them a good rate, I don't want to spend 2 days trying to search through unslated sound files and unslated video files to figure out where they go. So use the slate to identify it. And also, it's good to use the slate and verbally say it. So if you're doing double system sound, it can be at the beginning of the audio track, and you can match those two together. And finally, a contingency. If you have your $500, you want to have maybe 50 to 100 of that $500, and I know that's a lot of it, maybe 50, set aside for any contingency, an emergency. Something might happen on the set. Somebody may forget a prop. somebody may forget something that's needed, or something may break. You may run out of batteries or anything. So you just have a few bucks around if you seriously want to stay within that $500. And I say also too, don't fall into the trap of pulling your credit card out and putting all this money on something, on a project that is a learning tool for you. You want to stick to that to see if you can stick to a budget. And once you start doing bigger projects, and say for instance you are able to raise money and you're able to raise $50,000, $100,000, $500,000, you want to get into the habit of spending only what you have. And that's a great way to live. That's a personal thing too you want to adapt. I know nowadays a lot of young people are getting caught up into spending more than they have. And that's been going on forever. It's not just nowadays. And getting into debt unnecessarily. You'll notice if you're just getting out of college or you're about to get out of college, you're inundated with the credit card companies sending you, take our card, we'll give you a $50 start. Take our card, we'll give you $100. We'll give you bonus points. They all want to get you into debt. I've heard of this crazy thing now. I'm about to close up, but I've heard of this crazy thing now where you can, what is it called? Pay. I don't even know the name, but the concept is that you can buy it on time, like a layaway. And you don't pay today, you pay in 3 different installments. And there are many companies out there that are connected to online services, goods and services, where instead of just paying with your regular credit card, or instead of paying with your debit card, or instead of paying with PayPal, whatever the names of these companies are, I'm not too that up on those, but it's a bad deal where you can buy something and put it in installments, like the old-fashioned layaway service they used to have before many of you were born. You could go to a store and you'd put $25 down, and then each week you'd come in and you'd put another amount down until you paid off the whatever the total cost was, and then you take your goods home. This is something different. They let you pay, for instance, they break it into four easy payments. For instance, and people are using it for food, for Grubhub and all that online food services that are being delivered. They're getting it in installments. Ridiculous. But anyway, let's go back to me closing out, making your independent film for $500. So give it a try. You can stick to the budget. You will learn a lot. You will go through the whole process of casting, writing, shooting, editing, everything. And you will learn, I guarantee you will learn a lot. Even if it turns out terrible, even if it turns out unwatchable, still give a copy to the actors, like I always say, even if you end up just giving them the raw footage. But make sure they get a copy if they're actors and they need it for their reel. Don't stiff them on the footage because you're not happy with how it turned out. But go through the process, learn a lot, and finish it, and go on to the next one. Don't look back, just keep going. But look back and see, what could I have done better? What did I do wrong? Criticize yourself, look at it critically, and keep making better, and you'll continue to grow as an independent filmmaker. See you on the next one.